response, right? So immediately this protest spilled into the streets. The president's first speech, and I think that was the most telling speech that he's given all through. He says that apparently these kids are criminals,
treasonous criminals.
Correct. There's a saying that when you want to, when a hyena wants to eat its young, first it accuses them of smelling like goats.
Now, if you look at this generation of these kids, akuna toka Runda, akuna toka Kayole, all those kids are Bantu. So they speak the same language. Their lingo is the same. From Runda to Kayole, their lingo is the same. Doesn't matter where they live. Their lingo is the same. The Sheng they're going to speak is the same English they're going to speak. Everything is the same. They have no separation for them. So for them, they relate to each other as a generation. And for them, that issues are the same. Even the people who come from rich families do understand that they don't have anything. They don't have a future. They don't have, like, if my parents were to live right now and this was gone, I don't have any other way because they don't have any, there's nothing to show them that they're getting a country that's going to help them. And all of them understand creativity. All of them understand the internet where they use as their meeting place. They use it to their advantages on making money and doing stuff. So they have one common understanding to them. Their platforms are theirs and they mingle as one. So for them, they are protecting their country for themselves, for their so they have that bond holding them.
All right, now, Dr. Angusi, how have you been feeling and coping for the last few weeks, just to get us warmed up and to get us started?
Yeah, so it's been a whirlwind of activity. I think for most observers and political pundits, the events that have gone on in Kenya have been not just unique, but have changed significantly over the last couple of weeks, right? So it started obviously with a couple of months ago with the rumors about a finance bill that was going to be very contentious. It was in the media. It was in the social squares on social media, and then a finance bill was passed. It went through the first sets of readings, and just like that, a whole generation poured into the streets of Kenya to protest this bill.
Okay.
It was unique in the sense that it was unexpected. In fact, the first response from government officials, so like the MPs who were saying, for instance, that apparently Gen Zs are Cerelac babies, they are going to show up in Ubers, drinking
eating KFC.
Water, eating KFC. We didn't expect that of them. How have we coped here in the diaspora? It's to watch and see how we can support this effort. Many of us have been excited, but also scared, because we know, and from what we've seen, they're putting their lives on the line to fight for the soul of Kenya.
Okay, sawa karibu sana Dr. Wangusi to the OneMicShow studios, and of course we're going to be discussing all this, but I want to come to the panel real quick before we continue the conversation. I'm going to start with the truant boy who's been away. DJ Mochfire, karibu sana to the OneMicShow. How have you been coping?
With being away, or
with everything, with being away, with what's happening in Kenya, kila kitu.
Sungali sema hivyo. Yani yake Mungu you guys. Do you tumia ngeli ya kivi? Okay, sorry. So, yeah, it's been, if I think back to the times that we grew up in, or should I say that I grew up in, and the president who was sitting, and what happened to people who protest, it's scary. But these Gen Zers do not give a flying flip. They don't care, and then they don't have a measuring stick. It's like they don't have anything to measure with. You can't tell them sijui kuna Nyati house, sijui kuna Nyayo house, sijui utafinywa, sijui wapi, sijui nini, nothing. And they've gotten to the point where they feel zero. And that saying of punda imechoka, wamechoka. And looking on from the outside, I'm like, wow, how watu wamechoka. And honestly, I think if we were in Kenya, we probably would be on the streets with them.
And it's true, they're not restrained by the same fears that our parents
Yes,
and our
but what we saw it. We saw it. You saw the government machinery come into play the minute that you were dissident, and even in school, if you remember, whenever you had a riot in school, if something happened in Shule, the guys who led the riot or who were supposedly the ringleaders, they snapped on those people, they jumped on them, and that was it.
But you know what has happened is Gen Zs are using a very different mode or model of protest, which I think the government is failing to respond effectively to. So our security institutions are designed to pursue ringleaders. Right?
Someone you can find and
someone
touch.
you can find,
someone you can find and touch, and they're not there to be found and
that was their first response, right? So immediately this protest spilled into the streets. The president's first speech, and I think that was the most telling speech that he's given all through. He says that apparently these kids are criminals, treasonous
criminals.
Correct.
There's a saying that when you want to, when a hyena wants to eat its young, first it accuses them of smelling like goats.
Okay.
Right? So you
set up the environment.
You set up the environment. You start to justify this kind of police operation. Then you deploy, and when these guys have gone out, they've got a hold of some social media influencers, assuming that because they have many followers, because they are also using certain types of language on social media, that these are the people who are the ringleaders, but only to find that, wait, it's a completely decentralized protest.
Yes, absolutely.
And young people are coming out on their individual terms to make a statement. And I think what they've kind of said here is that you can't kill us and lead us.
Correct.
And then second, you can't kill all of us.
Yes.
You can't completely,
they're the
whole
They're the majority.
They're the majority, right?
Yes, and of course we're definitely going to get back to that. I'm going to come to Mika shortly, but before I get to Mika, I already see comments are coming down here, thick and fast, all the way from San Antonio, Texas, and from Dallas, Texas. I see Washeke here is saying there has been a political awakening in Kenya, and this is an enlightened awakening. We have Kenyans all over, even in Mashinani, quoting the Constitution in its entirety. Now, Slave from Dallas says, I love the revolution. Also, it's sad that there are people who are being kidnapped and some being tortured to death. This is not acceptable. We have to keep applying pressure till they get it right. And then Washeke comes back again and says, we can't sell them lies or fears anymore. And since we bequeath them hopelessness, poverty, and unemployment, they have nothing to lose. Mika Och, talk to us. Tell us what's going on from your side and how you've been coping with all these things happening in Kenya. Mika.
Anguka nayo. That is what I've been doing. Anguka nayo. But then, for me, one thing I'm seeing and one thing I'm liking is that there is a separation of politics, how it was known and how it used to be. And we've had so many times people saying that Wakenya ni waoga, Wakenya hawezi toa fujo kama countries zingine. Na countries zingine like kama Arab Spring, how it was like Wakenya hawezi fanya vitu kazi. So we've had people comparing Kenya, saying Kenyans and cowards and everything. But then what we realize is that we didn't have to do all that. What these kids have showed is that you didn't have to do all that. It's just you having a common cause that you believe in and you recognize and you feel it's something you're fighting for your right. No matter what happens, no matter what you do, you are not going to stop a movement like this, a movement that's coming from deep within the heart, a movement that's being caused by real socio-economic issues. And then what actually worked against the government, and by this time I'll not even say government, I'll just say the whole politician, is number one first, is that the generations before have always had this thing of classism inside it. Like, I'll give you an example. I'll use music. Reggae was music for people in the ghetto. Vernacular music was for what we shall go. People who come from the other side, from the western side of Uhuru Highway, used to listen to hip hop. And then jazz was for the classiest and then so there was, and you could see it even to a point whereby when Kenyan music came into the scene, once the have decided it was uncool, that was it was quite easily for it to go away, and that's why other music came in and took, because it was cool to listen to that music, which was well and understandable. Now, if you look at this generation of these kids, akuna toka Runda, toka Kayole, wote sikiza Abanton.
So
they speak the same language. Their lingo is the same. From Runda to Kayole, their lingo is the same. Doesn't matter where they live. Their lingo is the same. The Sheng they're going to speak is the same English they're going to speak. Everything is the same. They have no separation for them. So for them, they relate to each other as a generation. And for them, that issues are the same. Even the people who come from rich families do understand that they don't have anything. They don't have a future. They don't have, like, if my parents were to live right now and this was gone, I don't have any other way, because they don't have any, there's nothing to show them that they're getting a country that's going to help them. Mm-hmm. And all of them understand creativity. All of them understand the internet, where they use as their meeting place. They use it to their advantages on making money and doing stuff. So they have one common understanding to them. Their platforms are theirs, and they mingle as one. So for them, they are protecting their country for themselves, for their so they have that bond holding them. And unfortunately, this other group, kina Omoj na sisi wengine wetu, since we've been raised in that, not looking together, it was very easy to disperse us. Maandamano zilikuwa za watu wa ghetto, wanalipwa 1,000 wakalewa wakarusha mawe. The middle class were like, you're spoiling business for us. What did these kids do? They came out peacefully, all of them. And they told their parents, stay home. They told the older brothers, stay home. The older sisters, stay home. We're going to do this.
Okay.
Right? And they've been doing it. They're organizing themselves. Like, they're going for protests. They have medics, all of, as if they know what they're doing. So for me, let me not take a lot of time. For me, what I just want to say is that this should be a lesson, not only for Kenyans, but for all other countries, because this is everywhere in all these other countries. This generation speak the same word. So it's supposed to be a lesson for the older generation that it's time we either fix our differences and work towards our betterment, or watch our own children kick us out of the house.
Okay.